It takes something really, really special to not talk about the Iron Bowl in the very first segment of the second podcast since an Iron Bowl win. But something special happened.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
I feel like I played a 4 overtime basketball game, and I'm 52 years old.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. That was incredible. Alabama defeats number one team in the country. They weren't going to be number one, to be fair, after this week anyway, because they'd already lost to Iowa State. It counts. And here's the other thing. I want to get this out of the way before I forget to say it. If you are – look, I've never smoked a doobie in my entire life, right? Never smoked one, ever. And
did I say that out loud?
Never smoked one.
I'm 52. I've done stuff.
Okay. I've never smoked one. But I would – if you're making me vote whether to legalize it or not, I'd probably go, yeah, legalize it. I probably would. But after today – it might have turned me because marijuana has done something to Bill Walton. I don't know what it is. It has done something to him. That man ain't right. I don't know what the medical jargon is for that, but that man is not right. He said several things that were beyond bizarre and that confused his cohort. But that is something that everybody already knew, and I don't need to go there anymore. Shout out to my main man, Charles Bediako, who, look, at times he does look like a fledgling giraffe. I'd fully admit this. He's not as coordinated as you would want him to be sometimes, maybe. Let me tell you what that guy has. A heart big as a regular-sized giraffe. He is a monster. He played his butt off today, and he deserves – the game player of the game, shout out for all time. Charles Bediako, I applaud you, baby. You kicked butt today, made everybody proud. And I'm telling you, you stepped up. When we lost Noah Clowney early in the game, Brandon Miller obviously wasn't on his game, and Q was playing pretty doggone well. But it's very rare that you see a guy get a chance to take 3 game winners and miss them all. And that's what happened. Charles Bediako stepped up.
He really did. I think, this to me may have been the most exciting regular season Alabama game of all time. I mean, you're playing it has to be, right? You play the number one team, and I know you go, well, they lost Friday. That doesn't matter. They're the number one team. That's what it'll forever be in the record books. You played the number of overtimes and won the game, repeatedly coming back from terrible adversity. They played so hard. I mean, that was as hard as I've ever seen any Alabama basketball team play ever. And I grew up in the Wimp Sanderson era. I mean, that was just fantastic. I loved it so much. And Charles Bediako is definitely the MVP of this game. And not just – people might focus at the end, where he did make the game-saving block. And, hey, credit to the officials, me and Luke rip on officials all the time, and I hope we never sound like, that, hey, Alabama always wins, we only lose by the officials. That's not true, and we never intend it to be that way at all. But the officials somehow, some way figured out how to make this go right, because Charles's block was an absolutely great block, and had his great block caused Alabama to lose the game, it would have been one of the great injustices of all time. Somehow the officials made it go right. It was unreal. Every player that was playing through the end of regulation and through overtime, including Brandon Miller, who played what seemingly seemed like 2 hours and 10 minutes with 4 fouls. I know it wasn't his best night in terms of the box score, but he did play well. Everybody did. Javon, Mark Sears was the MVP through regulation. I think he sort of ran out of gas. I get it. Jaden Bradley also playing once the overtime started racking up. We don't win the game without Bradley, but Charles Bediako, MVP, and this team is so special. We'll see what they accomplish. Can they contend for an SEC title? Can they win an SEC tournament? Can they go to the NCAA tournament, make it to the Elite Eight? I don't know. So much of that, Luke, is about luck and bad bounces and bad calls and good calls. I don't know. I just know this is a really fun Alabama basketball team to watch.
Yeah, and look, I want to go back to Clowney for a second. I hope he's okay. I haven't seen anything yet. I mean, I don't think anybody's seen anything yet, but I think he's going to be okay. But I didn't like the way when he landed, like his right leg seemed to be vibrating. I didn't like that. I don't know what that means. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the hell that means, but I didn't like it. But to emphasize how his absence changed the ball game a little bit, he played a grand total of 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. I mean, he didn't play long, right?
No. I mean, that's so true. And how Alabama, I'm not saying he's our second best player.
Yeah, I know.
But you can't play North Carolina without him. And somehow Alabama did.
Right. And what I'm saying is, okay, I don't know exactly when he went out of the game, but because the game just ended 4 or 5 minutes into the game, he had 3 rebounds already. I mean, that's how big of a deal his absence is. So, I mean, imagine if he had been able to play the entire game. Bediako they've got him credited with 16 rebounds. I thought it was 17, 3 big blocks, 14 points. You know, Brandon Miller, I mean, he played his worst game at the University of Alabama so far, 4 of 21, 2 of 8 from beyond the arc. And he missed some real true bunnies late in the ball game. He was so frustrated with himself. But again, I think that's a growing moment. And what I'm hoping,
exactly,
I'm hoping Nate Oats says to him, Brandon, I know you're disappointed in yourself, but this is a time where you lean on your teammates, say, man, thank you, Charles, for bailing us out. I'll be there next time. I got you next time. And that's what you do. Mark Sears, you're absolutely right, man. Let me tell you what I think happened with Mark Sears. You said he ran out of gas, and I get that. As a guy that's played a lot of basketball, I would say I think he lost his mojo because they took the ball out of his hands. Now, we obviously had a plan to let Q shoot the last shot every time because, you know, Q's been at Alabama for a long time, and he's been on earth a long time. So I guess we felt like, you know, he's our best opportunity. But Sears was the hot hand at the time. I would have let Sears do it. Nate Oats is a better coach than I. So, you know, who knows? There were some very terrible turnovers. There were some very terrible inbounds plays. My God, the inbounds plays. I mean, inbounds plays and field goal kickers are the bane of our existence for the most part as Alabama fans. And the inbounds play, thankfully, North Carolina had one worse than we did. And then you're right. I want to go back to Jaden Bradley. Jaden Bradley, man, he muscles his way to the rim. He's not the most athletic guy we've got on this team, but he muscles his way there, and he gets the shot off the backboard more often than not. And he hit 1 of 2 free throws. And that's all I can ask for a true freshman who hadn't been starting. And all I can ask is make 1 of your 2. And that's what he did. And so, I mean, look, so proud of this team, so happy. I feel like I want to digest this win a little more to talk about it more extensively. So instead of waxing poetic about this game, what I'm going to do is right now is tell everybody about upside. I love upside. I'm telling you people, look, I drove to Atlanta and back today. I'd take my kids to the airport. And I made sure I stopped at a gas station that is partners with Upside because I got 9 cents a gallon back. And so, you know, you stop there, you get 15 gallons. I mean, what is that? It's a bunch of $1.35 or whatever. Not a ton of money, but it adds up. And then you get to change, just put it into your PayPal. It's free. It's free money. So why don't you, if there was a nickel on the ground, you'd pick it up. That's what Upside is. Upside is a nickel on your phone that you continuously pick up. I'm telling you, it's so easy. Inflation has us all thinking about different ways to cut back, whether it's driving less, dining out less, buying less from the grocery store, whatever it is. But I started using Upside. And it's an incredible app that helps people who buy gas, groceries, or dines out. It'll give them cash back. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED, LOCKED, to get $5 more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 or more on your first purchase of $10 or more using the promo code LOCKED. Now, I want to also tell everybody about LinkedIn, because we love LinkedIn over here at Locked On Bama. We always have, we always will. LinkedIn, my main man. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you got to do is add the purple hashtag frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and helps you do it faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may, and I bet they do, apply. Jimmy, let's go back to the Iron Bowl.
That thing.
Yeah, it happened. First of all, did you know this? Hunter Johnson, who's Twitter famous and really just Alabama famous.
Let's call him friend of the show. Not sure that's true, but I know Hunter. You know Hunter. I'm friends with Hunter.
God, this is the worst angle of me. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm not quite this fat. I am fatter than I was maybe 2 weeks ago. I'm not this fat, but I'm not changing it right now. Hunter Johnson was tweeting about how he loves to listen to the Auburn radio broadcast when Alabama's winning or when they're losing, because he loves to hear, Andy Burcham and Stan White complain. And I actually, when I got in the car to leave the game, I turned it on, and my station, the first station I could find that had the game on was an FM station out of Birmingham that had the Auburn game, and it was Andy Burcham, and he was saying something immediately about how, there's a hold on J.C. Latham. But I bet you that if, Derek Hall could say, he would tell you that he's been held a lot more than that tonight. And I was like, they just called the holding, man. But anyway, my point is.
And by the way, I know that play, and I watched that play, and I'm not 100% sure that was holding, but okay.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, it was holding.
Okay. So my point is, I didn't know this until last night. I thought it was so weird listening to them sign off. Stan White retired. He retired as the Auburn color guy, which I didn't know. And I just find that weird. So this year, Auburn's going to be getting a new AD, a new head coach, and a new color guy. Did
Stan White not do the color all season? Or
no, he did it all season.
Next season.
He's not. He's retiring. This is it. That was it. That was his last game.
Did he do the game last night?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's not doing it going forward.
No, he's not doing it going forward. I just thought that. And again, that's apropos of nothing.
Like Stan, by the way, I'm not commenting on how the job he does during the Auburn. I'm just saying I like Stan White. I know Stan a little bit. I like Stan.
Well, my point is that I just found it interesting that I would have felt he's been doing it for 22 years. I would have felt like there was more fanfare about it. I had no idea, and I keep up with this stuff. I just thought that was a little bit bizarre. But anyway, let's go. And that's just a weird Iron Bowl note. That's all. But let's go back to the Iron Bowl for just a second. Continue to wax poetic about Bryce Young, and we can do that. If you guys out there wanted us to do a podcast on 50 ways we love Bryce Young, we'll be happy to do that. But
50,
Jimmy, was there any other maybe unsung heroes in this game? I'll tell you something that a guy that's caught a lot of flack for his performance in this game was Henry To'oTo'o. And look, again, I'm going to go back and say this. I think Henry To'oTo'o is what he is. He's not C.J. Mosley. He's not Rolando McClain. He's not Reuben Foster. He's Trey DePriest. And there's nothing wrong with being Trey DePriest. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody can be the best. So, yeah, we need to upgrade at that position next year to be in competition for a national championship? You're dang right we do. But I think Henry To'oTo'o was better than people give him credit for, just not as good as people wanted him to be.
That last statement, I sort of agree with. I have more of a complicated answer. I think, the game has changed. The game has changed a lot, even in the time that Nick Saban has been the coach at Alabama. It's not 2009. It's not 2011. It's not even really 2017. I mean, the game has changed a lot. And what's asked of guys in the middle of the field, inside linebackers and safeties, I think in particular have been affected by this. I think Henry is a huge victim of, we expect the middle linebacker to be Dick Butkus or Reuben Foster or Rolando or going way back Wayne Davis, or I mean, and Henry to me is cerebral. He's very good at diagnosing. He's extremely good at getting everybody lined up, and I know that that's not something that fans are going to notice and even appreciate. Although coaches, have you ever heard Nick Saban do anything but wax poetic about Henry To'oTo'o? So I think there are things that go on that that Henry's extremely good at that maybe aren't appreciated by fans that are normally used to seeing the inside linebacker play like a Dick Butkus, and that's not what's asked of the. I would just tell people to watch for the NFL draft, and this is what's hilarious about that. 1 year ago, there was concern among Alabama fans that Henry would go pro after his junior year based on his season and be drafted on day one or no worse than day two. And I was the one, whoa, that's probably not going to happen. I don't think Henry's coming out. I don't think his draft grade is what y'all think it is. I think all these mock drafts are wrong. I don't think Henry's the NFL prospect that you got. And I was correct. Henry didn't come out. He stayed and tried to improve. In my mind, he sort of did. I do agree that there were games that he played better than others. And in my opinion, last night, the Auburn game was not one of his better games. But I think things have come to what I was sort of talking about last season, which is, yes, he's an NFL player. Yes, there's a future for him. He's not going to be a high pick. But I believe Henry does have an NFL future. And for the people that are being over the top about their criticisms, take it up with the NFL, because they're going to take this guy and he's going to play on Sundays. And I'm not saying he's a starter. I'm not saying he's going to be drafted in the first round or even on day two, frankly, which is the same thing I was saying a year ago. But Henry is an NFL football player. He's a very good football player. I don't like I get the DePriest as opposed to Reuben Foster, Reggie Ragland, Rolando McClain, Dante Hightower, because he's not one of those guys. But again, the game has changed. I think Henry's more, hey, this is what football's turned into. You need a cerebral guy that lines up everybody, a guy that's pretty decent in pass coverage, a guy that can do multiple things, and a guy who's sort of like the coach on the field. In the NFL, they wear a green dot on the helmet when you're communicating with the sidelines. That's Henry. And I think he's a green dot guy in the NFL, and I do think that there is a future for him in the NFL. It just might be on special teams, and it might be as a backup. But same thing I was saying a year ago. Nothing's changed. I think with Henry, people just, hey, if you're not a first-round pick, get the hell out. And that's the sort of monster that Saban's created that in some instances I think are sort of biting us more than helping us.
And before I go into this live read about Nissan and we talk about the rankings and Alabama's playoff path, I want to caution everybody, we're all chuckling. Let us all laugh at Auburn's coaching search right now. It's hilarious.
I didn't know you were saying that, and here I am laughing.
Let me tell you something. When we go through one, it's going to be unpleasant. It's going to be like a colonoscopy that your neighbor does as an emergency, and he only has half a toolbox to use. And everything's rusted, and all he gives you is half an Advil. That's what it's going to feel like. I'm telling you, it's not going to be fun. So while I'm enjoying what Auburn's going through right now, I'm telling you, Alabama fans, what we're going to go through is going to be worse eventually. So just remember that.
Different Different.
Different.
But worse.
Painful. But
Different,
painful.
But worse.
Yeah.
There is very few things I'm comfortable in predicting and being adamant about. I am 100% sure it's going to be horrific because for any number of reasons, but I'm choosing to let's just put it off another year.
I'm with you. But I'm just
go with the Saban guy who, you know, he might be the greatest that's ever done it in the history of the sport. Let's go with him and put this off a while. For every Alabama fan that's laughing at the Auburn thing, and I'm chuckling. Oh, just wait.
But just Jimmy, my grandmother used to always say, "There, but for the grace of God, go I."
Good one.
And that is what I'm cautioning Alabama fans to do, because when the shoe is on the other foot, and it will be, I'm admitting this, me, the guy that was called a narcissist by somebody else, I'm admitting 100% it's going to be bad, and Auburn fans are going to eat it up like it's just covered in chocolate. So, and they should.
This is why. I'll give the 20 seconds on why.
But wait a minute. I got to tell you about Nissan.
Oh, do that. Oh, I love Nissan. By the way, I owned a Nissan. I had a Nissan Altima for years when I was in law school. And when I got out of law school, I kept driving. I had a Nissan for years. Also, very, very dependable vehicle.
Well, you got to go get you another one. This week's thrilling moment in college football is brought to you by Nissan. The thrilling designs behind the new lineup from Nissan are intended to empower drivers and vehicles as capable as the driver themselves. When I think of unbelievable abilities on the field for this week's thrilling moment, it has to be, well, I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be on the basketball court. I know it's a college football thing, but Alabama just beat the number one team. And when I think of the Alabama-North Carolina game, henceforth, it's going to be Charles Bediako skying, rising, higher than Bill Walton at Woodstock to block a shot that was erroneously called a goaltend and was unbelievably reversed by the officials because they're great Americans. Yes. I thought you were telling me to stop. You were just
I'm doing the Dikembe
Mutombo.
Doing Dikembe Mutombo was no.
This segment has been inspired by the thrilling new designs featured across Nissan's new lineup of vehicles. Pursue what thrills you in the all-new Frontier, Armada, or Pathfinder today. Available now at nissanusa.com. Jimmy, go ahead and do your rant.
What were we talking about? The Alabama coach. This is why it's going to be bad. And this is so simple. Luke, and it's the last thing I want to talk about. It's still irrelevant. Nick Saban's coming back next season. I feel extremely confident about that. But this is why I don't want to laugh at Auburn, even though it is a complete disaster. Luke, between the two of us, and you know, we have our own show. We know some things. We cannot name a single name. Me and you cannot name one. There isn't one that Alabama can hire that's going to make everyone happy. As a matter of fact, we cannot name any candidate that would make a close majority happy, like the poll when the hire was over that 55% are on board or 60% on board. There's not a name. And that makes the search ridiculous. There's not one. You could name college coaches that have won national championships. No thanks. NFL coaches that have won Super Bowls. No thanks. There is not a name that will make everyone go, well, that's fantastic. I can't believe Alabama pulled that off. There's not one that exists. And that's why it's going to be just a disgrace.
If Bill Belichick were a centaur with the backside of Secretariat, it wouldn't be a good enough coach for what we want. But we'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge. I do want to talk about our path to the playoffs. We are in the AP poll at number 6. When I look at these rankings, look here, Jimmy, I'm a realist, and I try not to be one of those negative Nellies Nick Saban's talking about. But I personally am not sure we're one of the 4 best teams in the country. I think we are. I'm not sure of it, okay? Because even though Even though we've done a bunch of good things and we have all this potential, I haven't seen us put it together. So that worries me. Now, having said that, I want to get in the playoffs. I would take it if we got in the playoffs. So my question now is, how do we get in the playoffs? The only path I see, and this is a very difficult one, I think Michigan, it would be best if Michigan won a close one against Purdue, number one, to make Ohio State's loss at Michigan look even a little worse. I think it'd be best if TCU got their doors blown off by Kansas State.
Yes.
And then, of course, LSU lose to Georgia. Although LSU beating Georgia might actually help us a little bit. And then what's the other one we got to have?
USC.
USC's got to lose. That's it. If USC loses, I think there's a scintilla of a shot, because it's going to come down to, who do you believe in more? Ohio State, whose schedule is not as tough as ours, and who has a horrible home loss on at a time when it was crucial, or do you believe in Alabama, who's got 2 losses? They're 2 losses. Can't say anything about that. But they're both in the last play of the game to top 5 teams at the time.
Well, that's interesting, and I'm looking to that myself. I just happen to think that Ohio State will be ranked ahead of it. We'll know the answer to that, Luke, this Tuesday. We don't have to wait till Sunday. I think we'll know the answer to that this Tuesday when the polls come out, if Ohio State's ahead of Alabama. Because Ohio State's not playing next Saturday, and neither is Alabama. Why would Alabama move ahead of Ohio State when neither are playing next weekend? I look at it this way in terms of my hope to get in. My hope is that Alabama gets in for this reason. I'll be in the minority here, I'm sure nationally, and my opinion probably need not be aired nationally, because I admit that I'm a homer and biased. Of course I am. I'm a Alabama fan, graduate, booster, media guy. Of course I am biased. But this is my point. I think Alabama's best case is against TCU, and that is assuming TCU loses to Kansas State almost significantly. But if TCU loses to Kansas State, let me use the word solidly, and USC also lose. I think USC losing, giving them 2 losses and not a Pac-12 conference champion, they're out. I think that moves Ohio State in. I think TCU losing, and so they're not a Big 12 conference champ, that moves them to the maybe category. And now they're in the maybe category with Alabama. And it's a 1-loss TCU non-Big 12 champ versus a 2-loss Alabama non-SEC champ. Who should get in? What I'm telling you guys is, I've already looked at it. Even based on today's analytics, so I'm not factoring in the Kansas State loss that would require this matchup for the committee to consider, because even then it's going to be better for Alabama. Even today's analytics suggest that Alabama's a better football team than TCU. I believe they are. Again, I'm a homer. Hey, if you're a TCU fan, you say, I don't care what Stein on 3 Bama Insider says, he's a homer. Yeah, I am. Go ahead. Forget it. That's fine. But I'm just telling you, the analytics suggest Alabama has played a tougher schedule, has more game control, and assuming a loss to Kansas State, I think a case can be made that Alabama deserves to be in over TCU because they're the better team. And if you don't believe me because I'm a homer, that's fine. Ask Kirby Smart. Ask Kirby Smart. Who's going to play? You want to play TCU or you want to play Alabama? I know who he's going to pick. I know who he's going to pick if he had his honest answer. So if TCU and USC lose, I believe Alabama should be in as the 4 seed and not TCU. I would put in Ohio State ahead of Alabama. It's only 1 loss. It's to a top 2 team. I know it's at home. I know it's by more points than Alabama lost. I would put Ohio State in ahead of Alabama. I've seen both teams play. Ohio State's probably a better football team based on what we've seen so far.
Fair enough. We'll keep talking about this and can't wait till Tuesday when we see what the rankings actually are. And until then, y'all just sit back and bask in the glory of this win over North Carolina, and we will be back tomorrow. We're going to talk a lot of recruiting tomorrow. We will do that tomorrow right here on Locked On Bama. Until then, roll tide.